Good morning, everyone. We are going to call I'm going to call our commission meeting to order and welcome you to our April 23rd, 2024 meeting. I'll note for the record that we have a full quorum of commissioners present. Check your cell phones. It's embarrassing when they go off in the middle of a meeting. And I would ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on then into our routine business. Look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on now into our consent agenda. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on our consent agenda? Our consent agenda is our bills to be paid, personnel reports, that type of thing. Anybody want to comment on our consent agenda? Any commissioner want to pull anything off the consent agenda? Look for a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on now to our regular business. Last week we had a little bit of an anomaly in our, hopefully nothing that'll ever happen again, but we have a presentation from Mike Gramlich with Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. He's been our acting director of Metro Communications. Talk to us about 911, Mike.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for the invitation to speak today. If you didn't have a chance to see the press release, just some basic facts of what went on last week. We experienced a full outage across the state. It actually affected 4 states from about roughly 8 o'clock in the evening till just before 11 o'clock at night. So to explain what that means is that there were no 911 communication lines open that were coming into the center. So fortunately, we actually had a Minnehaha County Fire Chiefs meeting that night, and it was hosted at our new PSC. So most of our leadership team was already there. We truly just kind of ran down the hallway, started getting our arms around what was going on. We immediately contacted our dedicated comms team and our dedicated IT team. We were able to start troubleshooting. We identified that text to 911 was still functioning, and additionally, we had a functioning administrative line. So then we worked with our comms team and our emergency manager to get out a WIA alert, one of the Amber alerts that comes on your phone, that directed all 911 traffic to our 367-7000 number, and also let them know that text to 911 was functioning. And at that point, it just started working like normal. So for our responders, our partners from the county and from the city, they didn't see anything different. So their dispatch experience was the same. It was only the way that calls were handled at the center. Probably one of the most, telling statistics is that for that time period and that day and that time of year, we would typically have about 112 calls for service come in, or about 114, and that night we answered 112 in that same time period. So we're confident that we were able to manage that quickly. We also had our messaging out. If you can see, we obviously were in the news quite a bit this week. Really all that was a function of the fact that we had our comms out and our communications out before most other agencies, I think all other agencies. So then we actually started receiving calls from other call centers in the country asking if we had more information and could help them troubleshoot. So it was quite an experience. It was a fast 3 hours, very fast. I'd be happy to answer any questions though.
Commissioner Bender.
So my understanding, it was a issue from your provider. I mean, are there steps being taken to address the problem that happened so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope we would all feel the same way about that effort. Currently, the way that our state's managed is through a state 911 coordination office. So the person that manages that, his name is Jason Husby. They'll be providing a statewide after-action review actually this afternoon. And that is when we would expect to at least see that first idea of how they're going to manage continuity moving forward. So we have the same information that the public has. The cause is being reported, as you've probably seen on many news outlets, as a line that was cut, I believe, in Kansas. Obviously, that's generated a lot of questions in our community. I anticipate we'll start to have that process kind of revealed this afternoon, but it'll be ongoing. Obviously, a week in, it's difficult to imagine that the state will have a response program ready, but I'm confident that working together with that partner as a state, all 28 PSAPs will have an answer to that.
Thank you.
Mike, I guess the bottom line is the backup system worked, correct?
I think that is a fair statement, Commissioner Benninga. Honestly, we plan for a lot of different things, as you would imagine, but typically most of our planning is done at a local level, which makes sense. We have redundant fiber. We have all of the redundancy set in our new PSC, but that is a completely different animal when, in essence, the critical infrastructure for our country, because that's really what it is. It's a nationwide system. When that is interrupted, that's largely different. So what was probably most effective, what definitively was most effective, is that we had dedicated teams to get the comms out fast. We had IT people to diagnose the problem, because you can imagine you can't rush. You have to know what the problem is first. You have to know what an alternative solution is before you start running with comms. And we were able to have all of those teams working on that simultaneously, which is really just reflected in how fast we got the comms out.
Commissioner Bender.
So I hate to be so ignorant, but can you help explain what comms are?
Sorry, I apologize. Okay. That is an absolute term that I use. It's just our communications team.
Okay.
So the city's communications team, we actually have folks devoted just to Metro, as you can imagine, public safety and health. So we were able to coordinate with her. Her name is Megan. She was fantastic that night, but actually all the way up to our comms director. So it was a pretty amazing opportunity. If I think back to what we would have been in a year ago, we would have been scrambling to manage that our own in-center with our own IT concerns, and instead we were able to just put each team on the problem that we had and then pull it all together and get that communication out. Additionally, it's super handy. We have our emergency manager, Regan Smith, also lives under fire, so he was there, so we were just coordinating. He was ready to get that emergency alert out as soon as we had the clear communications as to what we needed. And in that event, when you think about over 90%, I think of our folks are wireless callers. That is the most effective way to get information out. Everyone knows that, hey, 911 is down. If you need services, call this number instead. You can text as well, as long as you have a data package. Really, I don't know how we could have done that any quicker or any faster. I hesitate to say it was fun, but it was great to see the team function so well. It really was a well-orchestrated event that night.
So we have our local Metro Communications. We have a state 911 board. Are we somehow members or involved in, does the federal government run the national? How is that run, organized, controlled? Help me out.
I'm just going to congratulate you, because you got me with a question I don't know the answer to, Commissioner Karski. I suspect there's coordination at a national level, but much like many of the things that we function at, where we have the most impact is at our state level. Our state coordinator, Jason Husby. So we actually, the contract for those 911 services is held at a state level. So all 28 PSAPs in our state have that same service provider. Obviously, there are other providers. I'm not aware of how they function or where they're available, but I'm just not certain at a national level. I suspect that we'll have a lot of those conversations coming after this after-action review, because every PSAP in the state will and should have questions about what happened last week.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Commissioner
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll just note I was at the fire chiefs meeting as a liaison, and I noticed some guys stepping out of the back of the room, and that group of people, sometimes there's real world events that happen, but finally some of that news got back into us. But I just will note the irony that we were talking about planning an exercise for a tornado or other similar event, and then a real world event hits. So I just would applaud that team, and maybe better lucky than good sometimes that we had a few key players in the room already when the event came. But just noting that sometimes we need to learn from planned exercises, and sometimes it's good to learn from a real world event how we scramble in real time. So yes, I look forward to learning more from that after action, and what others support or how we could make things better in the future. But appreciate your work in the moment at that time. Thank you.
Yeah, two things to that. I think it's important to note. Our availability, our presence there, I honestly believe was more comforting than functional. The way that our system is set up there, everyone and every team member can immediately remote in and have access to the things they need. We also have extensive conferencing capabilities, so we can connect with team members without having to drive there. especially in the event that we're trying to problem solve quickly. So it was really nice. I think it was comforting to have that presence, but at the same time, we're prepared to be able to manage that at any time on any day. And then just as an aside, because I think you'll find it fun, the gentleman that was presenting for that drill prep was concerned when we all ran out that somehow he had done something wrong. So it was quite fun to catch up with him afterward. So happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your work and the work you've done for the last, is over a year now.
I did it was fun. They celebrated a year anniversary for me, and it was pretty cool. And now we're repping our new gear and the new brand and the new look, and it's really coming along. So as I've said before, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. It's been a fun ride for me.
Thank you. All right, we will take public comment. Does anybody like to give public comment on this agenda item? If not, we'll move on then to our public hearing to consider a 2024 retail on-off sale wine and cider license for Uncle Ed's Specialty Meats. Kim Christensen, I talk slow to let you allowed up to the podium.
Thank you. Kim Christensen with the Auditor's Office. The Auditor's Office received an annual application for retail wine and cider license from Uncle Ed's Specialty Meats. The license would allow for the sale of wine and cider at their establishment located in Minnehaha County. The application was sent to the Sheriff's Department, State's Attorney, and Planning Department for review, and there were no concerns reported. The fee for a new license is $500 plus a publishing fee. Uncle Ed's currently has a malt beverage and SD farm wine license.
All right, questions for Kim on this? This is a public hearing, so is there somebody here that would like to speak in favor of this license being granted? Any proponents? Is the applicant here? Yeah. Okay, you don't have to speak, but if you want to, the floor is yours. All right, no other proponents. Any opponents? No opponents, so we don't need a rebuttal. I'll turn it over to the for public comment. Anybody here from the public want to comment on this agenda item? All right, look for commission action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Benega?
Aye.
Kipley?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye.
Blindberg?
Aye.
Karski?
Aye. Motion carries. We now have a annual presentation on the Board of Mental Illness. We have Tom Weirheim and Aaron Johnson here. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Weirheim and Aaron Johnson appearing for the Board of Mental Illness. We make this presentation every year about this time. When we were here last year, we were looking at our numbers, and we've kind of been tracking those year over year, and we anticipated an 8 to 10% increase in number of holds year over year. And we got the numbers back at the end of the year, and we were surprised to find out that we had a very minimal increase. We noticed we both ourselves and the qualified mental health professionals have been putting in more time on these holds, and so we started to track with our database as to how long individuals were on holds. The database was originally set up, the intent there was to just decide whether or not an individual was a Minnehaha County hold or not, and whether Minnehaha County would be responsible or whether it be Lincoln or another county. For example, as we state here, if a Pennington County resident is evaluated at Avera Behavioral Health, it's a Lincoln County case they would control. If that same individual were held at Avera main campus, then it would be a Minnehaha County case and it would be our responsibility. And so what we realized is we could track how long individuals were on holds, and our premonition there was correct. We did see an increase working backward. There's some more cleanup that needs to be done on that database to track number of holds, but the average individual increased from 1.9 days to between 2 and 2.1 on the amount of time they're on a hold. So we did see an increase, and so that indicates to us that some of these holds are getting more severe when an individual is placed on a mental illness hold. The other thing that it indicates to us is that since we're seeing fewer holds, more people are likely to be getting mental illness help on their own voluntarily. And so we think that the public is getting educated and understanding that that's an option for them. But with that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to track a little bit more details on our database, just because we have the demographics entered there. Let's track that and see what we can do differently, or how we can see what the trends are going forward. Some other things we want to keep an eye on is number of juveniles on holds, and also whether or not we have to take an individual all the way to a committal process, or whether we're able to release before they're committed. And so we're looking to track that information just to see, again, the trends, the volume, and the changes over time as to whether or not we need to, I guess, to see what our workload is, and what the QMHP, when they evaluate somebody, what their workload is. And so those are the main factors that we're looking at making the changes. We did include that within our budget, in our software portion of that to see to maybe make those changes. So that's kind of what we're tracking going forward. Again, the numbers are looking similar so far this year again, so we're right on pace there with last year as well. So that's what we can expect here in 2024.
I think overall things are going well. We're functioning the way that we should be. We have a good process in place that we continued from the board chairs prior to us. We've got some off-duty deputies that prepare paperwork and then serve paperwork for us, as you know. And the QMHPs have been excellent. So things overall are going really well.
Any questions?
Did you identify yourselves? I think you did, Tom. I don't know if, did you, Aaron?
Yeah, he said Tom Weirheim and Aaron Johnson.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Just for the record. Questions? Commissioner Bleinberg.
Thank you. I was just curious, is there anything else that would indicate, or how can I word this? The length of stay, you said probably indicated increased severity of the cases. Is there any other factors that would increase the length of stay?
Not really. They would have to meet criteria for each of those days. The law changed a few years ago and requires the QMHP to reevaluate every day. And so our QMHPs go in and evaluate every patient on hold every single day. So as long as they continue to meet criteria, then they would remain on the hold. So really, severity of their illness and where they're at that point, I think would indicate, or would be
Right.
would be why they would continue to be on hold.
Right, med adjustments and things like that to get somebody able to be discharged, and so they'd be on for a bit longer.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bender.
It's obviously great news that your workload and that the involuntary committals aren't increasing at the rate that you thought. I'm curious whether in your conversations with the mental health professionals that you're working with, if they feel like that there are less people needing services, or if that's where you get your theory that perhaps people are educated enough or getting more educated about the services available to them.
Sure, I should have clarified that a little bit more. What we see frequently is the beds are full at either HSC or behavioral health. So we know people are still there and still utilizing service, but our numbers don't indicate that increase. And so they're coming from somewhere, and we would assume that they're voluntarily seeking help then, if that's what's happening.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Benninga.
Tom or Aaron, I'm curious, do you get any referrals from the link?
We've had a few warrants from staff at the link. Other than that, no.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to confess that I really know so little about what you do. So what's the composition of your board?
The board consists of one co-chair and then 2 lay board members. So this morning we'll have hearings, and it'll be one of us and then 2 lay board members. Tom or I alternate weeks.
Okay.
So he's on call this week, and then I would be on call next week, and I handle hearings this week because I'm not on call.
And referrals or requests for holds, are they done by law enforcement, by family members?
So family members and community members can go to the sheriff's office and file a petition if they feel that they have a family member or friend or somebody who meets the criteria for a mental illness commitment. Then Tom or I would review that petition, and if we believe that the person also meets criteria, probable cause exists, then we would sign a warrant to have them brought in.
Okay, so it's actually done through a warrant. What is the cost for each hold? I mean, you referenced that it comes back to the county.
It really varies.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get an average, you can take a look at the budget and take that divided by the 1560 number of holds and get a pretty good idea.
Okay. I'll have to look at the budget a little closer. And you said you are working to separate it. Right now, you don't know how many are juveniles and how many are adults. That would be an interesting statistic, just.
Over the past 2 or 3 years, we've had an increase in juvenile holds. Anecdotally, we can see that, but we'd like to see the actual numbers to say, okay, here's how big the increase is, or here's what we're seeing, the trend going forward.
Okay, so they go through the process. There's a involuntary hold. Dispositions could be they're committed. What?
They could be released, after a day or two if they no longer meet criteria. Or if they continue to meet criteria, then they would be held. We can hold them 5 days, 6 days if there's a weekend in there, and 7 days if there's a weekend and a holiday. So someone who was placed on a hold on Friday afternoon would have a hearing today.
Okay. All the things the county pays for. Commissioner Bleinberg.
Could you just give us an overview of what the qualifying criteria are if someone were to reach out?
Sure. Yeah. So the criteria is that they exhibit they have a severe mental illness and that they are a danger to themselves, a danger to others, or the danger to self can either be through an inability to care for themselves, for instance, lying in a snowbank, no shoes on in the wintertime, something like that, or if they're actively suicidal, and then there's also a chronic disability if they've had 2 or more holds in the last year and have not complied with the course of treatment.
Most of our holds deal with harm to self, harm to others. We don't see a lot of the chronic disability.
And this is going to show some of my ignorance also, but does addiction factor in there?
That's a different procedure.
Okay.
A lot of time, we have individuals who come in that may be under the influence of drugs, for example, and we don't know at the point that they come into custody whether they are under the influence of an illegal substance or a severe mental illness. And so that the QMHPs are able to kind of tease that out. And, in a day, if they clear, then it appears to be probably drugs. And then they would be released.
Okay.
An average of 4 a day. So when does the process start? One of you has to be there every day? Is that?
So holds can be placed all night long. They can be placed in a hospital or by law enforcement without our involvement. And then we get a text in the morning with the list of holds. And then our QMHPs are also on that group text. They would go out, see these individuals, evaluate them, and then they call us.
All righty. Just interesting to know the process, so thank you.
Thanks.
We do take public comment on this agenda item. If anybody would like to, from the public, like to address it. All right, seeing none, this was a presentation, no action required. We'll move on then to look for a motion to approve and authorize the chair to sign stipulation and agreement for order granting permanent injunction. And we have Maggie from our State's Attorney's Office. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Maggie Gillespie from the Deputy State's Attorney with the State's Attorney's Office. I bring before you a stipulation and agreement for your consideration. This is a stipulation which the parties have negotiated to resolve the litigation which you authorized involving Tyler Childress and Don't Ask Holdings. Just as a refresher, the board authorized a civil litigation against the defendants, and we've had a court trial on the first phase of that action, which resulted in the county being awarded a preliminary injunction. This stipulation and agreement would grant the county a permanent injunction against the behavior which we've complained of in violation of our county ordinance. So if you approve this stipulation, I will present it to the court, Judge Howman, and ask for a court order approving the stipulation and granting the permanent injunction. I would stand by for any questions.
I trust we haven't had any issues since this was done.
Mr. Chairman, there have, I'm not going to say there haven't been any calls.
Okay.
I know Scott Anderson is here and could address any specific factual questions that you have about that. We haven't approached the court with regard to any of the instances that have come up. But if you do have specific questions, I guess I would defer to Scott.
Okay, well, I know there were a lot of neighbors that weren't real happy, so I was just curious if that had subsided. If we have an answer to that, great. If not, we'll move on to other questions. Commissioner Bender.
So is it fair to characterize this as accomplishing the goal that we sought in court, this permanent injunction?
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Yes. As I'd indicated, the preliminary injunction, at least from a temporary basis, stopped the behavior. The court ordered the behavior to stop the actions and the use of the property out there in Andes Acres. And now this action eliminates the requirement that we have another court trial to present and request a permanent injunction from the use of the property. So yes, this is a successful resolution, prevents us from having to have another trial, and gives the county what we wanted.
Thank you.
All right, we will take public comment on this agenda item. Anybody from the public want to address this? All right, I'll turn it over to the commission for action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Bender,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Weinberg,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Look for a motion to authorize the chair to sign the 2024 Juvenile Detention Center per diem contracts. Jamie Gravitt. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jamie Gravitt, Juvenile Justice Center. It's the first time I've used that. I figured since they are moving dirt that it's officially going on, so I tried it out. Before you today is our annual per diem contracts for counties that want to use our facility. You may have noticed there's 2 additional counties this year, Gerald County, South Dakota, and Pipestone County, Minnesota, that are interested in using our facility to house their youth. It's not a large number of beds that they would use, but it's still an additional 2 counties that we will be working with. The daily rates are set at $458.48 per bed per day. The shelter care rate at Arise is $289.20. Lincoln County also contracts with us for evening reporting center services and community supervision services. So ERC is $78.25 and community supervision is $54.27. I'd ask that you approve these contracts.
Do we have other counties outside of South Dakota, or is Pipestone the first?
Pipestone's the first.
Okay. Commissioner Bender.
Jamie, could you remind folks how we set the rate?
Yes. We utilized the budget that we projected for 2024 on what our expenses were going to be, and then we also included the interest payments for the bond that we're paying on the new construction. Previously, we had partner contracts and they received about a 20% discount. We eliminated the compact that we had, and now everybody pays the same rate no matter what.
Follow-up question.
Please.
So under the compact, they would have been responsible for some of the capital costs, and so we changed the way we do it, and now it's much more similar to how we charge for beds at the jail. Is that correct? We're not making money off of this. We're just covering our expenses.
We are definitely not profiting on this at all. We're breaking even. And yes, we followed the same guidelines that the jail uses to set their bed rate. One of the things that people often ask is, why is juvenile detention so much more expensive than jails? And it comes down to the amount of required staffing that we have. A great majority of our budget is staffing, and that's because we have to maintain 1 staff for every 8 youth, where the jail doesn't have those standards that we have to follow with the youth.
Can I just ask a clarifying question on the timeline for the agreements? So we're signing these agreements now, but it covers this calendar year. Is that normal that we do these agreements mid-year, and have they been paying this rate up till this point in January, just kind of out of the handshake deal, or where are we at these first 4 months of the year?
We send them out to the other counties in November. It's taken this long we try to get them all back together, and instead of doing this a bunch of different times, it's just taken this long to get some of the counties back. They have been paying the rate from January 1st.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Commissioner Bleinberg.
Thank you. Have we lost any counties that we previously had contracts with through this process?
We have not.
All righty. It's the only game in this part of the state, I guess, right?
Currently.
And it just, if a county didn't have a contract with us, but they wanted to, let's say, I don't know, is Brown County on there? You know, somebody that's more rural or further out, would we take them if they asked, or would it be at the same rate?
It would be at the same rate. We have done that on a few occasions where they were in dire need of a bed. We have taken them.
Okay, thank you. All right. Public comment. Anybody from the public like to address this issue? All right, I'll turn it over to the commission for action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Bender.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Go move some dirt. Oh, okay. Can be arranged. All right, we have a new County Veteran Service Officer, Lori Montes. You're here to introduce this person. And does this take action to hire them? Is that, I've got it as an action item, do we? Okay. Thank you. Just clarifying. Good morning.
Good morning. Lori Montes, Human Services. I have with me here this morning Tyler Grotwold, who is our new Veteran Service Officer, hired by Human Services and approved and appointed by the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs. So he is just going to introduce himself to you all this morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Tyler, the new Veteran Services Officer. Came over here from Social Security. Just happy to help serve the veteran community.
Mr. Chair, can we ask, are you a veteran yourself, and what branch of the service were you in?
Yes, sir. Army.
Army, okay. Commissioner Karski and I are partial to the Air Force, but we won't hold it against you.
Sounds good.
All righty. You resident or longtime resident of this area then?
Yes, sir. Yep, Iowa, just across the border. Just moved back from Dallas a few months back.
Oh, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. I'll look for public comment. Anybody from the public like to comment on this agenda item? Commission action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kipley, second by Benega. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Human Services Annual Presentation. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Commission. Carrie Benz, Human Services. Gosh, this seems so loud. I don't think I'd even need this, honestly. So I'm here with you today just to provide a little bit of a recap of 2023, looking at the beginning of 24 to help us really prepare for the fiscal year 2025 budget. Before I launch into that, I would like to give a few thank yous here, namely to the Commission for your support, guidance, and always your willingness to give us a little bit of latitude in being able to best care for our community. I also want to give a shout out to the Human Services staff. We have a team of people who are incredibly committed. We see a lot of difficult things and they never quit. And so it's a pleasure working with them. And then also our community partners. At Human Services, we couldn't do our job if we didn't have the relationships that we have with our community partners. So I appreciate their willingness to collaborate, their willingness to listen, and in the end, be able to find solutions in order to be able to address the needs for our folks. And also, I just do want to note, this will be, fiscal year 2025 will be our first budget since 2020 that we're not administering other funds. We've been involved with One Sioux Falls, we've been involved with ARPA, and with South Dakota Cares, and so we're ready to come back home and just do county work. Just to note, as you can see, I've listed a few of the advancements and investments that we've had in 23 as well as in the beginning of 24. Of those, I just want to note that we've been able to collaborate to build new housing opportunities for those that are impacted by the criminal justice system. We've embarked on digitally communicating with our community better by getting involved with the HCNC, which is the Helpline Center Network of Care. It allows us to communicate better with our partners and expedite all of those that we serve, getting better connected much more quickly to the right services. We developed a new shelter opportunity. We've been challenged greatly by those that need emergency or crisis shelter. The hotels that we've utilized in the past have changed over predominantly to being long-term type settings. And so we haven't wanted to be able to utilize those for those that maybe just need a weekend until we can get them in, see a caseworker, or get them involved with one of the shelters. So we are working on solving that problem by getting involved and working out an MOU with another facility where we would be able to have 3 units that would be dedicated to those crisis and emergency situations. So more to come on that as we develop that, but it's a great opportunity. It actually cuts the funding need for that by 2/3, so much, much better. We've also really spent time investing in our staff. It's really promoted professional development as well as organizational wellness. It's optimized our ability to report and utilize our data to better tell our story and the impact of the services that HS has. And then ultimately, in the end, from South Dakota Cares, we locally administered $5.8 million in state funding that came from the feds. And so we're incredibly proud of that. Our staff worked diligently. We were able to whittle down that waiting list, which in the end now we have resigned from being involved in that, and we're kind of thankful to be done. And although those list of accomplishments are vast and many, it doesn't mean that our challenges are over, and I've identified a few of those challenges that are ahead of us. They're certainly not unique to Sioux Falls, certainly not to South Dakota, but I just wanted to comment on a few of those. Our economy has been incredibly challenging because of the housing market. It puts limitations on what access our individuals have available to them. And it also has been impacted by the community growth. The ever-increasing number of those that we serve creates staffing challenges. We do more with less. And so that's true for a lot of agencies. And as we have better connected with our community, every agency reports the same. We really need to develop the opportunity for on-the-job training. I really want to promote and advocate that our community better embrace that idea and that concept. We have a number of people that we need to get back to work, but they need to have the skill set to do so. We've also encountered a great, we've really struggled on the mental health and the addiction challenges, and as you heard from Aaron and Tom, although that number doesn't go up, there certainly are complexities in that arena. Those individuals just struggle with finding housing, they struggle with finding and staying connected to services, and it certainly has created a little bit of a challenge for us at Safe Home, which is a program obviously that we operate through Human Services. Those challenges really promote us becoming better ingrained and more acutely aware that we need to do more training in this arena with our staff. Those individuals come back and it's really unpredictable. It creates a lot of tension for our crew. And then lastly, just to note, our streamlining of services to promote easy access and a unified approach. It's really imperative that we also bear in mind that we need to be culturally competent, forever educating ourselves on the different changes in the structure of our community. We have a number of different individuals that are immigrating here, becoming a part of our community, which changes our tapestry greatly. So we also need to be very aware that we need to have those interpretive services available, not only being able to do the verbal interpretation, but the written materials as well. Which brings me then to really look at what we've been doing in 2024 thus far. When we really established our goals for 2024, we identified that it was critical for us moving forward because our direction, although it's staying much the same, it is impacted by the composition of our community and the level of need that we're encountering. So it really is the foundation for 2025. It was also really important to us for our goals to be true internally for our staff, how we treat one another, how we work with one another, as well as externally in how we communicate and collaborate with our community partners. It obviously impacts our ability to be a team and also optimizes the impact of services as a whole. So you can see by our goals for 2024, we really wanted to build on trusting partnerships and collaborations. We say what we say and share what we would like to do, what we'd want to do, and then we follow through with doing just that. We embrace each other's mission and vision so that we can unify and strengthen our teams, and we prioritize team development. Without having that skilled core group of individuals that serve our community, we would be at a significant loss. Our goals are straightforward and will assist us in being prepared for what's ahead, which I've identified here as the potential impacts that we should consider when looking at 2025. Medicaid eligibility is again kind of on the books to be reviewed in regards to who's eligible. That obviously would potentially impact our hospital expenditures. Our federally funded assistance programs will be coming to a close. And when I say here that they will be ending come 2026, they actually, the bulk of them will end in September of 2025. So by 26, we're gonna be on our own. And so that will impact our budget. And I believe that it's gonna be critical for us this year to do a lot of planning strategies to best address some of those challenges that people are going to face moving forward. Our veteran numbers are increasing, so you will be seeing in our proposed 2025 budget the request for another VSO. We have approximately, and I was given these numbers by our VSO that just left us, so I'm hoping that she's accurate in these. She told me that there's about 15,000 vets in Minnehaha County. And so at any one given time, there's about 3,000 of those that have active claims. And so as one can imagine, Tyler is a young strapping fella, but there's only so much time in a day and he's but one person. We do have a number of VSOs at the state level, but their function is a little bit different. And our VSO does also work with a lot of the vets that come to our office and getting better connected with supportive services. And that's not something that the state VSOs do. And so Tyler will be very busy in learning his role and becoming the lead VSO for Minnehaha County. And then lastly, our growing community and rising costs and utility costs, you'll be seeing a slight increase in our budget for those items as well. Nothing significant, I would say, and to some degree, this is going to be us becoming acclimated again with just being county and not administering any of those other programs. We have spent some time looking at how we plan to address some of those challenges that I've identified. We certainly want to optimize the use of our kiosks to expedite connections. If you haven't been over to our office, I would welcome you to come take a tour. We've redesigned our front desk and we now have 4 computer kiosks that are available that we have invited the hospitals along with local clinics that if you have people that need to apply for Medicaid, please invite them over. We'll be happy to try to help get that organized so we assure that people get connected. We also will be utilizing those for our staff to help them apply for housing, employment applications, etc. So we're really hoping that we can optimize our ability to connect people more quickly digitally. We also want to optimize community education and coordination to promote the growth and the best utilization of our community resources. We certainly are very aware and try to stay keenly in touch with all of our partners and the community resources that are available. And our partnerships are second to none. The people that we partner with, they're outstanding. They step forward and they're never willing to not roll up their sleeves and dig in. Obviously, we'll have the request for the hiring of that second VSO. I think that will be critical in us moving forward and helping the vets be better connected. And then also, I want us to continue to collaborate with our partners, work to expand our landlord base. That's something that is ongoing and probably will be forever and always. Housing is a hot commodity, and us having access to that is imperative. Working diligently with our community partners to explore the opportunities for those partnerships to promote the self-reliance for those we serve. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. And our grant that we are currently working on, the Just Home grant, that has been an outstanding opportunity for us to really realize the stewardship that it takes to actually come to fruition to this magnitude. We're going to be having 51 units come to fruition at Glory House. We have an apartment complex that St. Francis House bought, Copper Arms. And with the feds, our local housing authority went to the feds and went to bat for us. They're actually making some accommodations in how we can use our Section 8 vouchers, which is a first for our community. So we'll actually be able to have that available for 2 people to access 1 apartment. And so we just now have doubled the number of people who can actually live at Copper Arms. So we'll actually have the ability to have 20 individuals instead of 10. Not to mention the additional properties that have been purchased with the PRI dollars that also came with the Just Home grant. Those PRI dollars, however, went to Sioux Falls Housing, the Affordable Housing Solutions Program, to administer. And I believe now we're sitting at about that $4 million mark. So it's been an outstanding opportunity to invest in our community and providers that can be in it for the long haul. And we get to be a partner, which is exciting. And then also, obviously, we've got the ongoing strategizing to address our systemic challenges. And by systemic, I mean that they're just challenges that have been around a long time that we may not be able to independently or individually change, but we know that there are some rewrites that need to happen in regards to federal supportive programs, housing being one of them, food stamps being one of them. We just need to realign forces so that we actually can incentivize people to not want to be involved with the system of care and to become more self-reliant. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. But thanks.
Looked like you had another 105 pages to go, Carrie.
Nope.
No, okay.
I tried. Tom told me 10
No,
minutes.
you did a good
Carrie.
job, thank you. Questions from the commission? Commissioner Bleinberg.
Not so much a question, just a comment on what an asset we have for the county with Carrie and Lori and their team. They just do an amazing job with such a large scope of tasks and projects that they work on. And I've been lucky to be their liaison since we started last year, and the amount of time that Carrie and Lori have spent educating me and working with me to help explain all the processes and all the things that they go through. I just want to say a big thank you to both of you and to your team for all your work.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I'd echo all that. Appreciate the presentation. One clarification on the VSO, it sounds like another FTE you'd be hoping to add.
Yes.
That was a focus of the state legislature, and I believe if we do approve that position, does the state pay for some portion of that? Do we know the answer?
They do contribute
Okay.
a small portion to the annual salary of a VSO. This would be a first for us. So I'd like to assume, but I shouldn't assume, that they will. I would guess that they would support the second position just as they do our first. At least I would hope so. So if that were true, it's roughly $5,100 a year that they put toward a VSO.
Okay.
So,
I just know we'll want to clarify that as part of the budget process. So, but just planting that with you that we want to look at. I think there was some legislation that just came through this past couple months, so it would go into effect July 1 that we'd want to clarify. That's all I had for now.
My mind was on the same track, Commissioner, just how we can dovetail a new VSO with the legislative changes. I don't know if there were mandates based on numbers or money that comes with it. I know that was one of the issues that they were really trying to work with the counties to relieve that burden of the mandate without the money. And so as part of your ask for a new FTE, if you could kind of, as the process goes on, inform us how that's going to work or what our options are.
absolutely.
That would be great.
Tyler just brought back to us kind of the contact information for his state contact, so we'll be doing that for sure.
And Tyler had been a VSO at another level, or?
He's not been a VSO. No, sir. Right? He was at the Social Security office.
Okay.
So he's ready to be out and about, so he tells me, so
yeah,
we're excited about that.
I know VSOs from talking to, help me with their one that just left us. Kathy, thank you. Mm-hmm. She indicated to me that VSOs kind of have a clientele that basically follow them around. So
I do. We had a significant number of vets that came with Kathy. Okay. She had been at the state level, and they certainly did migrate right with her. They just adored her. So I think Tyler's going to start out with a pretty big base of people to follow. Okay. So that'll be great.
All right. Other questions? Public comment? Is Commissioner Bleinberg, please. Public comment?
Yeah.
Hi, Roger Russell. I just wanted to mention with the South Dakota Cares, you did a great job for a tenant on a property that I manage. It went very smoothly, so a plug for that. And then also, do we partner with the Veterans Community Project, the tiny homes?
We do know of them.
Okay.
Yes. We do know of the tiny homes, and certainly that will be something we'll pursue. They've started working to place folks, and so now that we know that that's available, that'll certainly be a resource that we'll promote. Certainly Tyler will be involved with that.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
As a realtor, that's something that's pretty close to my heart as far as the veterans and the housing and just helping them get acclimated there. So thank you.
Roger, just request from Kim to make sure that you signed in so she has record.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not sign in. Okay.
Yep, over there would be great. Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment? All righty. Moving on then. This is a presentation, no action required, but I'm going to echo Commissioner Bleinberg's comments as a former liaison to Human Services, the lives you touch in so many different areas. I think most people would be amazed at what happens in the human services at the county level. So thank you. Moving on. Look for a motion to authorize the chair to sign the lease agreement between Minnehaha County and the City of Garrettson for communications equipment. Captain Bosman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Bosman with the Sheriff's Office. I have in front of you this morning a request to sign a lease agreement between Minnehaha County and the City of Garrettson. This is part of our radio tower expansion project that's occurring out in the county for all of our first responders that would impact law enforcement, fire, EMS. Expanding our radio network would then allow our portable radios to have better coverage, especially in those areas that have been underserved for many, many years. One of the sites is the City of Garrettson that we have identified as a great spot to have an expansion of the radio tower coverage. They own a piece of property right next to their water tank on the east side of town. If you've ever been up there, it's also geographically the highest point in the area, which is very beneficial when you're looking for radio signal coverage. So we've come into an agreement with the City of Garrettson that allows us as Minnehaha County to place our radio tower equipment on that site at no cost for using of that land with the City of Garrettson. And so they are very, very appreciative of the financial support that the county is putting into this project, recognizing that, and they are excited to have the increased coverage. I was up at one of their city council meetings, and as I was introducing this agreement with their city council, the fire chief and the director of the ambulance was just like thumbs up, nodding their head, can't wait for this project to get going. And so we have construction services prepped and ready to start moving some dirt and get these little shelters and antennas placed.
All right, commission questions? Public comment? All right, commission action.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Same thing for City of Colton.
Yes, one other site, there's a total of 5 sites that will be included in this project. The second site for this agreement that we're asking for your authorization to sign is with the City of Colton. They have their water tower that's in the middle of town, again, piece of property that is owned by the city. They would be allowing us access to place our structure on that site and install antennas on their water tower at no cost. So we greatly appreciate the partnership that our rural communities are sharing with Minnehaha County in this project.
All right, commission questions? Public comment? Commission action.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, different line of business here. Consider a motion to authorize the sheriff's office to sign a purchase agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated for new tasers using the ARPA funds. Captain Bosman.
Commissioners, Joe Bosman, the Sheriff's Office again. We have a request in front of you this morning to utilize the American Rescue Plan Act funds, also known as ARPA funds, for taser purchases within the Sheriff's Office. For the last 10 years, our Sheriff's Office has utilized taser devices to all of our certified law enforcement as a less lethal option. When we get faced with a response to resistant situation, we try everything possible to safely resolve potentially dangerous threat to either ourselves or to others or to a self. And a taser is a successful tool that can be utilized to help us handle those situations. Our current tasers that we've had for the last 10 years have reached their end of life per the company. They are a technology and equipment built into one. They are pretty sophisticated. They track their usage. They could data download all that information. But being as they are 10 years old as any technology, they've eventually hit their end of life. And the company that supports them, Axon, has said that they are no longer going to be covering any sort of damage, problems that with the devices. And so we've started looking at what other devices are out there, what can help us maintain our effectiveness when responding to these types of situations. And we've identified with Axon Enterprises the Taser 10 model, which is the current model that they have out there. And we've worked with them to come up with a plan for what our adequate needs are. That we share tasers as much as possible, understanding that if there's we only need so many handles at a certain time. So we're not having a whole bunch just sit on a shelf unused. We want to make sure that we're just being justly so with using what we have. The amount of tasers in this agreement would cover all of our divisions within the sheriff's offices that use them, which includes our patrol division, Southeast Tech, our airport security, and our jail divisions as well too. So we can cover all of these with this one purchase agreement. It would provide enough taser handles and batteries and cartridges, the training that we need to have certification annually for this devices, as well as any probe deployments that we use within the next 5 years would be covered under this one purchase, that they would provide those at no cost because it's a one-time upfront payment. After this 5-year plan is done, it's our anticipation to continue to use the devices as an a la carte method and just support in our standard budget operating for the cartridges and batteries if needed. It is an acceptable allowance of use of ARPA funds as it is a technology and a tool for law enforcement responding to increased violence. And with your support, we would certainly appreciate your support to purchase these new tasers for our sheriff's office.
All righty. Questions from the commission? I guess I have one, Captain. 10 years ago, was that the first time that tasers were brought into the sheriff's department?
To our sheriff's office, yes. It wasn't very much before that. Well, I should say that. Tasers been out for a while, but 10 years ago is when we first started utilizing tasers.
So it was about the same time the Sioux Falls Police Department brought them on. I remember having the conversation. It was after a lethal incident. I was on the city council, and I was surprised to learn our police department didn't have tasers, and I really encouraged the police chief at the time, who wasn't all that in favor of it, but him and I had a long conversation. I told him I wanted to budget for it and kind of push him into it, and we eventually did get tasers with the police department. So I think it's a great non-lethal tool in the belt, literally. If you are looking for commission volunteers for taser testing, I would volunteer Commissioner Kipley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we actually had that conversation. I politely declined that great opportunity that the captain offered up, but the demonstration, the live demonstration, you're getting your money's worth. I trust it. We don't have to verify it.
Yes, and along that lines, you bring up a good point. The Sioux Falls Police Department did go with tasers shortly after us as well too. They actually have upgraded their tasers to a different model, a newer model, probably about 3 years ago. We've squeezed every bit that we can out of our current models to the point where we are now. So it is something that we're requesting a need to replace.
All righty. Public comment on this item. All righty. Turn it back to the commission for action.
I would make a motion to approve the purchase.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Captain. Highway Department Annual Presentation. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Commissioners. Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. I'd like to follow Carrie Benz, which is never an easy task. She did a great job earlier. The Highway Department's mission is to provide a safe, efficient, and reliable highway system. We are responsible for the design, construction, and maintenance of approximately 200 bridges and 347 miles of roadway. We are staffed with 31 full-time and 1 variable hour employee. I'm happy to report that we finished 2023 strong financially and fully staffed. After a couple of years of very volatile construction pricing, it appears that pricing have started to stabilize. This season, we've been very pleased with the number of bidders on our projects. Last year, we were getting 1 or 2 bidders. This year, we've been getting as many as 6 bidders on our projects. And the pricing received on our solicitations to date have all been favorable. All of our bids came in under the engineer estimate so far this year. And even our annual materials bids, they came in under pricing from 2023. Our priority is to retain our employees. Everybody in every industry right now is struggling with staffing. I'm happy to report that we are fully staffed. We did lose 3 long-tenured employees last year to retirement, and then 2 other employees left for higher paying jobs. But we were also very pleased and fortunate to have a really good candidate pool, and we did hire 5 excellent quality employees that we're very satisfied with, and we're happy to have them working for us at the Highway Department. Our ability to maintain a high-quality highway system will continue to be largely dependent on our funding. We've been very judicious in seeking other funding sources, both from the state and federal level. Earlier this year, we were successful in receiving awards on all 3 of our South Dakota DOT Bridge Improvement Grant applications, resulting in $2.8 million in additional funding. We also worked with SRF Consulting over the last year and recently submitted an application for $3.1 million in federal infrastructure funding through the Bridge Investment Program to replace 3 bridges on Highway 104 east of Del Rapids. Our application was submitted, and we hope to hear in June if we were successful in receiving these funds or not. Our success in receiving state and federal funding will be a major influence on our 5-year capital improvement plan and future budgets. We will also continue looking at federal funding opportunities for the Maple Park Street corridor now that we have started the next phase of design for that corridor. Starting in 2023, in coordination with the MPO, we contracted with Stantec on a pavement management analysis. When I submitted this last Thursday morning, I knew that any day now we would be receiving our final report, and of course I received it about 2 hours after I submitted this. We will be bringing a summary to the commission of our report, but I'm very pleased to let you know that our PCI, our Pavement Condition Index, remains outstanding. When I started, I couldn't believe it was 78. That's just an unheard of high score. Average agencies, you're looking at the low 60s. I know at my previous employer, our goal was 65 for a PCI. And I'm happy to report that our new number was a different company, so there can be a little variation, was almost 76. So we're still doing very well. Our previous report in 2020 recommended spending $2.9 million annually on maintenance and construction to maintain our ride quality. We were anticipating that the number would be approaching close to $3.9 million. The actual number was $4 million is what the recommendations will be to keep our PCI score steady. We're going to be looking at how we're going to fund this $1 million in extra in our budget for maintenance. It could be a variety of, delaying equipment costs, replacements, not doing as many bridges and other roads. Another option that would be if we were able to increase the wheel tax from $4 to $5, that would generate about $850,000 annually for the highway fund, which could be used to help cover this gap. The wheel tax increase would also give us an additional 2 points on our South Dakota DOT big applications, which is often the difference between receiving state funding or not. As I mentioned earlier, we've awarded a lot of contracts. We've been very happy. Most of our projects for 2024 have been let. Our projects under construction for this year include phase 2 of 3 of the reconstruction of Highway 149 south of Colton. It also includes the replacement of structure 50-272-030, which is nearing completion. BX Contracting worked on that all winter long. We also have structure 50-337-130 coming up in Red Rock Township, and we're also going to be doing 39 miles of microsurfacing. We also led a contract to replace a bridge on Highway 104 west of Del Rapids, but that contractor has indicated they will do that project in 2025. The state also just awarded 2 bridge replacement projects for our Minnehaha County bridges that are federally funded and being administered by the state. We're anticipating that that contractor will replace those bridges this year as well. In about 5 minutes, you're going to be asked to award a contract to Sioux Falls Construction for a joint project for the rehabilitation of structures 50-197-100 on Highway 122 and 50-330-026 on Highway 103. This is going to be concrete rehabilitation. It's a low slump overlay of the bridge decks. We also need to repair a culvert on Highway 146, which is East 26th Street, east of Veterans Parkway. We were hoping to do this project last year, but with all the work on Highway 42 Arrowhead, we decided to push it back a year to avoid some of the traffic implications. And then we did get our 3 big funding awards already for our 3 bridge replacements, and we plan on advertising those later this year for 25 or 26 construction. Captain Bosman just talked about radios. I didn't put that in my report, but part of the technology is we did purchase all new radios in conjunction with the upgrade in the public safety. We're happy to hear that there's additional towers going online because we do have areas in the county where our radios do not work, and every additional tower that Metro and the Sheriff's Office is able to get online gives us better coverage on our radios as well. So the investment in the Sheriff and Public Safety radio equipment also benefits the Highway Department, and we appreciate the support for that as well. We continue to invest in technology to assist staff in effectively carrying out our duties. Last week, we launched our anticipated software upgrade, Tyler Technologies Enterprise Asset Management. It's software that handles all of our project work orders, inventory, asset tracking, and fleet management. It works well with our GIS map application. It's turning all our county roads and bridges into assets. We're going to be able to more accurately abide by our state statutes for cost accounting. It also helps us eliminate AS400 and RTA, our current fleet software. Earlier this year, we installed 4 Frost Solution mini weather stations in various corners of the county. This is the city of Sioux Falls also has 4 of these throughout the city. It helps us monitor conditions throughout the county, gives us road temperatures, gives us video. We're able to deploy our resources much more efficiently. Each unit has a sensor, reads the surface temp of the road with a laser. We had one day where it was really windy, and we pulled up our cameras and noticed that Wall Lake was drifted over about 8 inches deep, and we were able to get our plows out there and get the road cleared before we got a commissioner giving us a phone call about the snow across the road out there. We've now been in our new facility for over a year. We finally were able to get the old facility torn down back in January. I believe the site looks much better now without it. We are working on design of a proposed phase 2, and building a 20,000 square foot building would allow us to eliminate the remaining old buildings on our campus. Another item we have coming up starting later today, is we are getting our current fuel system inspected. Our tanks are 50 to 60 years old. Our distribution system is also old. Once we get our report back, we'll know if we need to do some upgrades or to be looking at other alternatives to fueling our vehicles. Next Monday, April 29th, we will kick off our 2024 construction season with our annual spring training day. We'll also be starting our summer hours, 4 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. And several of our seasonal employees will also be starting for the year next week. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Steve? Steve, I have one. The wheel tax, it's only on the first 4 wheels, right? So if a vehicle has 6 or 8 or 18 or how many ever, they only pay on the first 4. Kind of wondered about the equity in that. When the state big contracts come up, or I guess, what do you call it? Yeah, the applications for the bridge improvement grants, is it just based solely on the dollars, or is it also based on the number of wheels? I mean, would we consider looking at maybe changing the number of wheels this applies to, maybe lowering it to $3, but going to 10 or whatever, just different formulas?
Mr. Chair, it's the dollar amount. You get points based on $1 to $5.
Okay.
And if $4 gets us 8 points, $5 will get us 10 points on the application.
Do other counties go beyond 4 wheels, or is it, because I think that part's up to us to decide, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I'm not making friends with people that have more than 4 wheels, but yeah.
Yeah, different counties. We did do a survey a year or 2 ago, and there were multiple varieties of taxes based on number of wheels and the dollar amounts. Each county seemed to have their own system.
Are any vehicles exempt, like ag vehicles or anything on the wheel tax?
I can't answer that question.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure of that answer.
Okay. So those are questions, if you bring this to budget time, that I'm going to be asking, just to give you a heads up.
Yep.
So
I anticipate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Public comment? All righty. Moving on then. This is a presentation, and we thank you and your staff. You have a great team out there.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
You bet. All right, moving on. So consider bid results and award recommendation for MC 2213 structure 5033026 and MC 2310 structure 5197100 rehab and authorized charter assignment agreement with SFC Civil Construction. Floor is yours.
I believe it's been 5 minutes since I mentioned this previously. This is 2 bridge improvement grant funded bridge rehabilitations. We were happy with our bids. They were both bids came in under engineer estimate. We are asking for your award to Sioux Falls Construction.
Questions for Steve? Public comment? Commission action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider bid results and award recommendation for MC 2312 gravel pit building and authorize the chair to sign an agreement with Colton Lumber Company Incorporated. What's going on?
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. This is our equipment shed out at the gravel pit that was destroyed nearly 2 years ago during the derecho. We applied for FEMA funding for both storm cleanup and for the replacement of this building. FEMA and the state awarded us $125,000 to replace the pole barn. On April 10th, we opened bids for the project. We received 6 bids for this. Colton Lumber is the low bid. We recommend award. They did have one slight anomaly that did not impact the bid pricing. They failed to sign on their bid that they had received the addendum, but the pricing included the addendum, so we were advised that we could accept the bid. So we're asking for your approval to enter into contract with Colton Lumber.
Questions? Public comment? Commission action.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider a motion to declare Highway Department Unit Number 2402 Kimco Salt Conveyor as surplus and authorize the sale of the unit to the city of Sioux Falls.
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. Just over about 2 years ago, the city of Sioux Falls asked to borrow our salt conveyor. They were having issues with one of theirs. We had not used ours for many years. After using it, the original plan was hopefully find a truck or some other equipment that we could do a trade with. We have been unable to work on an agreement. We approached the city earlier this year asking if they'd be interested in purchasing the unit. We got some pricing from various vendors on what the value would be, and we agreed on the price of $40,000. We're looking for your permission to declare this piece of equipment surplus and proceed with selling it to the city of Sioux Falls. They still have it in their possession. I've been using it for the last 2 years.
Did we get any rent?
Excuse me?
Did we get any rent off of them?
No.
No? Okay. Other questions from the commission? Public comment? Okay, commission action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bender, second by Kipley. Call the roll.
Bender.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg. Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, consider a motion to approve the issuance of a request for proposal for job evaluation and compensation study. Morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. You all probably remember that we've been talking about this now for quite some time. In 2024, we budgeted to start conducting, or in 2023, we budgeted for 2024 to start conducting a compensation study. Before you today is a request to approve the RFP for that study. For those of you who've been with us for a really long time, you might remember that we last conducted a full compensation study in 2007 and 2008. We went out for another RFP in late 2013 to conduct a study in 2014 just to review the salary ranges for those positions. Since then, we've been doing the studies internally in our own office with software that was purchased during that 2014 study. So the bottom line on this, though, is that it's been quite some time since we've done a formal study. So we're asking for the support to go out, review our job evaluation, conduct a thorough compensation and benefit study, and review our salary structures to make sure that we're in line with market. The goal is to issue the RFP today and have those responses received by June 7th with the goal of having a contract before the commission in early August and the study completed by early 2025. I'm warning you that that might be a slightly ambitious goal, but we're hopeful we can complete that. As part of this, I would also just mention that we'd like to have a committee review the RFPs when they come in June. So I'm asking for support or letting you know their intention is to include Tom Greco in that, Chief Deputy Jeff Gromer, Steve Groen is our Highway Superintendent, Tracy Smith is the Public Defender, Amanda Halsey is the Register of Deeds, and myself. The reason for that group is it touches on some of our core areas in our larger group of employees. Any questions on the RFP?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kipling.
So if we get this data back in early 2025, we'd be potentially implementing for the 2026 budget if there's cost increases, presumably that some pay ranges will go up or down or expand different things. So there won't be any impact to our budget season now. We just won't have the data yet.
Very good point.
Okay.
So we'll collect it. No changes for 2025, but hopefully we'll have all of the information in place so that we can use that information for setting 2026 budget and implementing any changes in 2026.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Carrie, does this study talk about, number of staff? It's not just simply a compensation, but how many people should be doing a job and that type of thing, or?
No, it really doesn't focus on that. It's about the positions that we currently have and how we should be adequately compensating them both from salaries and benefits. Okay. So it's not an org structure or a span of work structure.
Okay, thank you. Public comment on this item. All righty, look for commission action.
Make a motion to approve.
And I'll second it.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, Susan, briefing on the first quarter 2024 American Rescue Plan expenditures. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office. We're almost ready to submit our first quarter report to the U.S. Treasury for our ARPA expenditures for the first quarter of 2024, and we just wanted to provide the summary to you of those expenditures like we have for the past 2 years. Just to remind you, we received just over $37.5 million of ARPA funding. Through March of 2024, we have spent just over $28.2 million, with our first quarter of 24 expenses just over $2.8 million. The expenses that are reported this quarter are consistent with previous quarters. I'll just point out a couple of things. You'll notice the largest line item in there is a little over $1.8 million payment related to the Sheriff's Emergency Response Infrastructure Project. That was a payment on our Motorola equipment that will go into those towers. And additionally, we spent $740 on some consulting with Eide Bailey. So that is a new item. Otherwise, the remaining items were all things that are just ongoing for the county. Just to remind you, as I've said before, we have to have all of our funds obligated by the end of 2024, with full expenditure by the end of 26. We do not anticipate any issues with having the funds obligated by the end of this year. We anticipate having full expenditure of all dollars within 2025. The majority of the items that have been covering operational expenditures will end in 2024. So as we prepare for 2025 budgets, the operational expenditures will be back to fully general funded.
Do you have a total on that? And I kind of hold my breath because I don't think I want to know, but I need to know.
I believe it's around $6 million.
$6 million.
Yes. Okay.
And
we've been planning for that. And as we've talked about many times over the last 2 years, that we have been preparing for that. So it's that time. Mm-hmm. So.
Other questions?
Can I ask one question specific to jail staffing? I think we received some good news from the jail that they aren't going to need some extra staff as soon as they thought. But does that affect any of this and the pace of any spend down for ARPA dollars on jail staff?
So the staff expansion into UC3 were not factored into projections on the new positions line within this. We knew there was some variability to that. So although we could use ARPA funding to fund those new positions, We've not put that into our forecast as how we use this money, just because we knew there was some variableness to it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Commissioner Blindberg.
Thank you. Just a comment to all the different people in the county staff who have worked to help make good use of these ARPA dollars, like, for example, the tasers that we approved today. I appreciate all of that one-time stuff. I think it fits with our philosophy very well. Did I recently read that there was new guidance maybe released in regards to this, and can you tell us anything about that?
They have, the U.S. Treasury has submitted or sent out some updated guidance probably within the last month that kind of clarifies some guidance they sent out in end of last year in November related to the definition of obligation. In last quarter of 2024, they had clarified that they did not see payroll expenses past the end of 24 as eligible. So 25 and 26, although you could spend ARPA dollars in those 2 years, payroll, because there's usually not a contract, that they did not deem that eligible. They walked that back this spring, so that now has become an eligible item. It just gives us a little bit of flexibility that if we have some unused dollars at the end of the year, we could carry that into 25 if we want, but we do have to essentially obligate them by the end of the year and say, if let's say we have $200,000 left, we have to say at the end of this year, we're going to use that money on this item. Or we have to have a contract in place for all the other items. So we currently in our office project on a regular basis where we're sitting for the year and where we think we'll be at the end of the year. So we'll continue to monitor that. And as we get to fourth quarter, we'll have to see where we're sitting and then make some decisions on how we obligate those funds. It could be on contract-related items that are executed by the end of the year or potentially personnel that were in place by the end of 24. But I don't see any issues with us spending it or having it obligated by the end of the year.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bender?
Well, and my question comment kind of piggybacks on that is that it's not a significant expense, but you did note that there's a cost for consulting here. And I think that the general public would be surprised because you always are so calm and collected, but you've done a great job in helping us guide through what are constantly evolving guidance from the federal government about how these funds can be used, and you know, that this consultant, you recommended that we get some outside advice about guidance that was less than clear, and they've now clarified it. But I just really wanted to say how much I appreciate your guidance over this whole process, is to figure out, you know, we want to spend this money in the way that it was intended, make sure that we're legally compliant. And I just really appreciate the effort you put in to make sure that happens.
We appreciate your thanks. And, you know, our office is continually just looking at this just as the best way to serve the county and to follow the guidelines of the U.S. government. So.
I'm going to echo Commissioner Bender's comments. I know the hours and days and weeks that you put into just the time on the phone and the different meetings, and you are the expert on the ARPA stuff. And if there is anything on consulting, I think you should be getting paid from other counties or people that have called you, because, yeah, you have been amazing in this role. So thank you for that. So, all righty. Public comment. All righty. This was just a briefing, so no action. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We do take now public comment. If anybody would like to address the commission on anything that has not been on the agenda, you have 5 minutes. We give 30 minutes total. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Brachtelsbauer. I hope I can get this. Am I close enough?
Yeah,
okay.
You're good.
And first of all, I want to thank you for your service to our county. Such good citizens you are. And I'm bringing a concern about Medicaid expansion, and in particular, Amendment F. So I'm concerned about something after Carrie Ben's presentation, which goes to 2025. This would happen after that. And Amendment F is on the ballot, and it would allow the state to add a work requirement for people on Medicaid if the feds start allowing that again. So we know it's a concern because the counties want to avoid having medical bills dropped in your lap when people can't pay them. And also, there's Medicaid expansion can help meet the challenges of mental health and addiction services that you care about so deeply. So what I'm asking is that you could help as county commissioners individually, but especially as a group organization statewide or locally, to help oppose Amendment F during the ballot year this year coming up before November. One reason is that we know it's very difficult to keep people signed up. It's hard enough to get them signed up, and of course, I'm sure we'll work on proposing more ways of getting people signed up, but to keep people signed up is so hard. We know it's hard because this was tried in Arkansas, and it was 18,000 people that had signed up had lost their Medicaid. And that was a fourth of all the people who had signed up. And they were signing up people between the ages of 30 and 49. Here in South Dakota, it could go from 19 to 64, which would mean even more chance of having more people dropped from their Medicaid because of the work requirement added. So it's just, what happens is it creates cracks for people to fall through when you have that work reporting on people that are in many cases less able to do that kind of reporting, even if they're working. And what we know about people on Medicaid expansion is that most of them are working, but they might be like people that I see, landscapers or construction workers doing seasonal work, reporting for work maybe 7:30 in the morning, and then they go home very tired. And they're just not, all kinds of work people are not that able to keep up with reporting their work. Or maybe it's seasonal work that it isn't even happening all the time. Or it could be caretakers of different varieties of caretakers. Could be people with unstable or unpredictable work hours, and we lose them. It could be people in areas short of jobs. And there's just not a way for the state to possibly create enough exemptions on paper that would capture all the various people who would need to be exempt. And I'm thinking about a lot of times somebody may be sick, but it's not a disability that's officially disabled. Maybe they're just sick for a while. And we certainly don't want people coming to work with COVID symptoms. And yet that's what the kind of thing that could happen when you have to have that work. So I'm just suggesting that it would be important for counties to be out there in front trying to oppose the vote for this amendment on the November ballot. We know that some get SNAP, which has work requirements, and possibly the state could put them on autopilot where they didn't have to do another work requirement. But a lot of people are not on SNAP. For example, there's a certain group of people without kids at home that are considered able-bodied, whether they really are or not because of all these other circumstances like I've mentioned, but they only get SNAP 3 months out of 3 years. And so that's a huge group. There are thousands of people that are in that group that couldn't be put on an automatic work exemption or considered already covered. So there are just so many ways that it's important to not pass this amendment, because we know what happens. It's been tried, and it just doesn't help at all. So personally, I am also professor of public health for the med school. Would be happy to meet with any of you personally or any way to help equip you further to advocate with the state organization of county commissioners to try to get get them on board as opposing Amendment F. That's my plea. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else for public comment on a non-action item? Non-agenda item. All righty. Moving on then to commission liaison reports. Anybody have anything to report?
Mr. Chair, you guys got to hear a little bit about my exciting fire chiefs meeting, but aside from the 911, I'll try to get more details out through Tom to the whole group, because we were all invited if you'd like to watch any portion of the disaster drill that they're planning for May 7th. I think I plan to attend at least a portion of it. So I'll get the time and location. I think they're doing it out near Ellis is going to be the location, and then have EMS and fire certain units respond and kind of just practice different collaborations to an exercise. So I believe that is on May 7th, but I'll get more details to the group through Tom. And then my only other report is we had planning and zoning last night, pretty uneventful, mainly action through a consent agenda items for both the joint City of Sioux Falls meeting and just the regular county meeting. We are making further progress in the comprehensive plan chapter by chapter. We went through the transportation chapter last night. Didn't have a lot of feedback for staff on that one, but just kind of outlining our different rail networks, highways, obviously, things like that that affect future growth patterns. And then the thing we're kind of waiting on to put some pieces of the puzzle together would probably be later this summer. But we have one more meeting of the density zoning task force. So we kind of created a subcommittee of a couple of my colleagues on the Planning Commission, a couple people from the agricultural community, a couple people from the development community, to say housing association, because we get so many requests for, hey, can you convert my property to rural residential, and basically just hand me building eligibilities, and maybe there are some proper criteria where that could be a fruitful exercise, and maybe sometimes that's counter to our existing comprehensive plan and the purpose of building eligibilities and a theory of density zoning. So I'm hoping by May or June we might have a report back from that group that says here's a few options for us, and then we incorporate that into the new comprehensive plan later this summer and start getting feedback from some of the other communities, especially in some of the high growth areas that might see some commercial and residential growth in their communities. But that's all I've got.
Looking forward to that one. Alrighty. Anybody else? Commissioner Bleinberg.
I can just give a quick update. Tom has been working with us with the Juvenile Justice Collaborative Group, which has had a little bit of transition in the last year or so. As you know, we didn't continue our contract, so we're taking on some of those tasks, and Tom's been doing an excellent job of helping us restructure and get reorganized, just kind of fine-tuning that group, recalibrating, and we're trying to develop a plan going forward of how we can continue to take this wide group of stakeholders from across the state and the county to continue working to serve the youth in the area. So nothing new necessarily coming yet, but kind of positioning ourselves to get reorganized and move forward.
Alrighty. Questions, comments, additional reports? Moving on then to non-action commission discussion. Anybody want to bring anything to the table? No? Okay, we have no executive session today, so I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. No meeting next week.